What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Hope you are doing well. In our last video, we went over how to navigate to our chat view by selecting a user, right? So like if I select Steve Rogers, it will take me over to my chat with Steve Rogers, so on and so forth, right? Now we're going to go over in this video how to actually start sending a message from one user to the other. So I want to be able to type something in this field, hit the send button, and have that show up in my chat. So we're going to be getting started with that process now. The first thing we need to do in order to do that is create a data model for our message. So what exactly is a message going to be? How are we going to represent that programmatically? So we're going to go to our model folder and create a new file to start this off. It's going to be a Swift file, and we're going to call it message. So this is just going to be a simple struct, guys, but first we're going to import Firebase, and we are also going to import Firebase Firestore Swift. And we're going to create a message struct here. It's going to conform to a couple things: the identifiable protocol, the codable protocol, and the hashable protocol. So let's start off with the basics. So first things first, we need to know who this message is going to be from, right? So we're going to create a property called fromID, and that's going to be a string. This will represent the user ID of the message sender. Then we also want to know who the message is to, right? So we're going to say let toID be a string as well. So it's going to be from this person to this person. Then we need the message text. So we'll say let message text be a string as well. We are going to need the time the message was sent, which is going to be a Firebase timestamp. And then we're also going to need a user associated with the message as well. So this is going to be like an actual user object that we attach to the message. And we'll go over why we need that a little bit later. Next up, guys, because we are conforming to this identifiable protocol, we do need to implement an ID property. Here is a nice workaround for doing this. I'll explain all of this stuff when the time comes, but go ahead and create this thing called a document ID var message ID, which is an optional string. And then we're going to create an ID property down here. And this will help us conform to this identifiable protocol. And we are just going to say return message ID. If it's not there, we'll give it a default value of nsuuid.uuid string. And then we're going to have a couple other computed properties here, guys. We're going to have something called a chat partner ID, which is a string. And this, we're going to say return from ID equals auth.auth.current-user.uid. Yes, to ID, no, from ID. So what's the logic behind this? Well, this will help us figure out who we're chatting with. So basically, we're saying if the message is from ID is equal to the currently logged in person, then we know we're chatting with the person that the message is to. If not, it's the person that the message is from. This will make a lot more sense once we actually utilize it, but it basically just helps us figure out who we're talking to. And then we are going to say var is from current user, which is a bool. And then we're going to say we can just copy and paste this line of code right here. So basically, if you guys remember from our chat view here, the logic that helps us determine where to put the message and how to render it is based on whether or not it's from the current user. That's what this property is going to help us figure out. So this is everything we need for our message data object, guys. Everything about sending and receiving messages is going to be built around this data model here. So now that we've done that, let's go over how we can actually send a message to the user and go over sort of the backend implementation here and all that good stuff. So the first step with sending our messages, guys, is going to be to create a message service. So this message service is going to contain a function that we use to send messages from one person to another. So inside of our service folder, let's go ahead and create that file. It's going to be called message service. And we can just go ahead and create a struct called message service. And we're going to have a function here to send a message. And the only input parameter we need is our message text, which is just going to be a string. So The backend logic is what gets a little bit tricky here, guys. So I want us to talk about that before we actually start filling in this code. So I am going to open up the completed database for the app here so we can take a look at what this is going to look like. And let me just make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see. So we have this messages collection, right? So here's how we're going to organize it. These are all user IDs. So you can see here, if we click on the user section, like DVIX is Black Panther, right? So we're going to create this section here, and this is going to be all of Black Panther's messages. This is going to be all of this user's messages. All of this guy's, all of this guy's, and you can see here that this guy has multiple conversations going on. And this ID here represents this chat with the person you're talking to. So if I click on this, this represents all the messages I have with that particular user. This represents all the messages I have with this particular user, right? So it's user one, who they're talking to, all of their messages, right? You can see here that these are the messages that they have between each other. The from ID is this person, the to ID is this person, the timestamp, the text, read or not, blah, 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 right? And then this recent messages guy we'll talk about a little bit later. But that's essentially the backend structure here. We're going to create a document, and that document is going to have a list of collections, and each one of those collections is going to represent a chat with a particular user. So let's go ahead and see how we can model that out in the code, right? It's not going to be that hard once we break it down. So first thing we're going to need, guys, is our current user's ID. So let's go ahead and just import Firebase up at the top. We're going to say guard let current UID equal auth.auth.currentUser.UID, else return. And one more input parameter we're also going to need, guys, is who we're sending the message to. So let's go ahead and say to user, which is just a user. So let's go ahead and see if we can use this, figure out this chat partner ID. For now, we're just going to say let chat partner ID equal user.id. So this is the person that we're talking to. This is going to be the from ID of the message. It's obviously from whoever is sending it, which is going to be our currently logged in user. So when I hit send, I know the message is from me. And when I'm sending it to that user, that's who I'm talking to, right? So now what we need to do, guys, is create our database references for this. So I'm going to create two properties here. One is going to be called current user ref. And it's going to be equal to firestore.collection messages .document current UID .collection chat partner ID .document. So this right here is going to be pretty annoying to have to type out all the time. So let's go ahead and just extract this. So we can say, let messages collection equal, and then let's go ahead and grab that guy right here, and let's replace this with messages collection. And ideally, what we're going to do later on, guys, is create like a constants struct that's going to store all of our database collections, but we'll do that in just a little bit or in another video. Now we need to create the database reference for the recipient of the message, right? So we're going to say let chat partner ref equal messages collection dot document chat partner ID dot collection current UID. And then we're going to say let message ID equal current user ref dot document ID. And I will explain all of this in more detail in just a little bit, guys. Just keep coding along with me for now. Now we're going to create our actual message object. So I'm going to say message. And we want to include this message ID property. Make sure you do that. And let's go and add all these properties. So we're going to pass that message ID in. Our from ID is going to be the current UID. It's going to be to our chat partner. We're going to pass along our message text. And then we are going to just create a timestamp here. And I'm going to indent all of this stuff to make this a little bit neater and more readable. So anytime you guys have an object or a function with a lot of input parameters, it makes it a lot easier to read if you do it like this with all of those indentations. But anyway, now what we're going to do, guys, is encode both of these this message here. So I'm going to say guard let message data equal try firestore.encoder.encode this message, else return. And then we're going to say current user ref.set data message data chat partner ref dot document message ID dot set data message data. Okay, so that should be it for now with what we need to do to send a message. So really quickly, guys, before we actually implement this, I just want to break it down one more time and show you what each line of code here represents with the actual database functionality. So I'm going to bring this back up, and let's go ahead and look at what it would look like to send a message from one person to another. So let's see. This is Black Panther, and let's see who NFP is. That is Batman. So let me open up my app here. Let's see who the Joker is, actually, so we can make this a little bit more clear. Okay, Joker is YDQQ. Messages, YDQQ. So these are all the Joker's chats, right? And you can see here that he has 2 of them with these particular users. This one is Batman, right? So if we look here, these are all of the messages that they have between themselves. So what is happening here, right? So when I send a message to the Batman, I need to add that to 2 places in my database. I need to add it to the Joker's message collection and Batman's message collection, right? So this is what, let's take a look at this particular message ID, 51PT, right? So right now, this is the Joker's list of messages, his chat with Batman, and this is the first message that was sent. And here we go, right? Or, any one of these messages, it doesn't matter. Now, let's go and look at what Batman's chats look like. So if we go to Batman's chats, right, messages, NFPP, we also see here is his chat with the Joker, right? So we need to put that message in 2 places, and we see that same exact message ID right here. So that's sort of the logic behind this, right, guys? So here's why we set it up this way. This is really important to understand because, like I said, the backend stuff here is pretty tricky. So here, this is going to be the document path to the message that's being created or being sent from the current user. We say .document here. So this automatically creates a document for us. But you guys notice we don't do that here. And that's because we only want to create one message ID, right? So we're going to be sharing one message ID between 2 users. That's why we saw in our database that we saw this message ID was the exact same in both places, right? When we did the path of Batman's chats to here and the Joker's chats to here, the message ID is the same. And there's a reason for that. You want to make sure that your message ID is the same for both users. So then that's why our message ID here is created based on this current user ref, right? And we populate that message ID property with that guy right there. Then we encode our data here so that we can upload it to Firestore, and we then set the data in the according places or the relative places, right? This is the path for the current user ref, and this is the path for the chat partner ref. So now that we've gone over that hefty explanation of all of the backend implementation and logic and setup, let's go ahead and see if we can actually send a message now. So I'm going to go into my chat folder, and we need to create our view and ViewModel folders here, guys. So let's do that really quickly just to keep our code organized. So I'm going to add all of these to my view folder. Okay, and now let's go ahead and just create a chat view model. So I'm going to create a Swift file here, and it's going to be called chat view model. We are going to say class chat view model, which is an observable object, and we are going to add a function here to send a message. And here we can just open up our brackets. Let's add a published variable here for our message text. And then we also need to initialize this guy with a user, guys. So we're going to say let user be a user. And these are the only two things we need to actually call on that function to send our message to a user. And we need to say init user, which is a user, self.user equals user. And the reason we have to do this init, guys, because this is a class and classes require initializers where structs do not. So now we could literally just say message service dot. We need to make that a static function. So really quickly, guys, go back to your message service and make this a static func. And just build your project to make sure everything is cool. Yeah, so we need to go back to our chat view model now and say dot send message and just pass that message text there as well as the user. Cool. So now what we can do is go inside of our chat view and implement this view model and call this send message function. So we're going to move this message text property from here to the view model. So what we can do is just delete this and make a state object for our view model. Chat view model. And we actually need to inject it with a user. So let's just make it, declare it that way. And then we'll go here and say init user, which is a user. And then we'll say self._viewModel equals a state object with a wrap value of our chat view model with our user right there. So I know that's a lot, but now, guys, what we can do is go ahead and call that ViewModel.send message function, right? So here is where our guy is to send the message. Really quickly, though, we need to replace this with ViewModel.messageText. And in our button action here, we're going to say ViewModel.send message. You guys notice we don't have to pass anything along to it because we already have the message text on our view model there as well as the user. So that's as simple as it gets, guys. And something else we're going to want to do when after we're done sending the message is just say ViewModel.messageText is blank again, right? So let's go ahead and try to wrap this video up with seeing if we can actually send a message from one person to the other. Nothing is going to happen in our user interface. This is all sort of the back-end portion of this, guys. In the next video, we'll get into fetching messages. So let's go ahead and run our app. And okay. Yeah, I figured this was going to happen. Let's make this static as well. And run that. Build failed. Okay, yeah. So are we using this user anywhere? Yes, we are. So we need to go here and say self.user equals user in the initializer, and that's inside of our chat view. So let's try to run that again, and I think we'll be good to go. Okay, so this is our app. Let's go ahead and see who we're logged in as. So I'm currently logged in as Heath Ledger. I'm going to try to send a message to Batman. So Bruce Wayne, hey, Batman, what's up? And hit send. Okay, so we noticed that that erases from our chat view right there, which is cool. Now let's go and bring up our database to see if that actually sent. Right, so we got our messages collection. Let's check our user IDs, right? So the Joker is EZX and Batman is CGT. So we notice that we see both of their IDs showing up there. That means the message is being registered for the Joker and for Batman as well. So this is saying, hey, this is the Joker and this is his chat with Batman. Here's the message ID. Pay attention to that message ID, guys. It says GRN on my side, and this is the message data. And then if we go back to messages and we go to Batman and his chat with the Joker, we see that same exact message ID. So we're sharing the same message ID between both users. And this way, guys, the chat shows up for both people, right? Because I need this to show up on both my recent messages and on Batman's side of things, I need it to show up for him there as well. So that's why we're putting this message in two places in our database, and we have those corresponding paths, right? So we have messages. This is the Joker, and this is saying he has a chat with Batman, and this is Batman and saying he has a chat with the Joker, and there's the message. So that's all looking really, really good. In the next one, we're going to go over how to fetch messages and ultimately how to display them inside of our chat view, right? So we want this all to be displayed. That's really weird that doesn't work sometimes. It might be a bug we need to fix. But yeah, so we want all of these messages to be displayed with the real-time message data. So that's what we're going to be doing in the next video, guys. We'll see you there. Peace.